What's up, everybody? I'm just here to talk to you about the Scorpio full moon that's coming up and how it kind of relates to a lot of the other energies that we've been experiencing on the planet in the last week or so. Last week really was intense. We had Mercury stationing direct, and then right after that, we had Saturn station retrograde. On that same day, Chiron entered Aries, and then we had Pluto station retrograde, which we are still feeling in this moment. Pluto is one of the slower moving guys, so when he stations, you can feel it for days leading up to the station and days leading after, and it's because he moves very, very slow. Over the course of a few years, or of 1 year, Pluto may only move a few degrees. So when he stations to go retrograde or move direct, he stalls at this one spot without moving much, and it really gathers some momentum. So people's stuff has really been coming up. I've been seeing people unleash their feelings, that have been pent up for a long time, like a volcano. Of course, Pluto brings up stuff from the depths that's been kind of festering and gathering energy deep within. And then it's around these times where Pluto makes himself known that this energy needs to come out, it needs to go somewhere. So it can be quite explosive. And also, we always just feel things a little bit deeper. The more subtle currents of life, some of the more occult energies that interest us, like what's going on behind the scenes, what is molding this reality, those types of thoughts. And then, of course, death, the unknown, what happens after death, how do we experience death. I know in my own experience in the last few days, I've dealt with a lot of these themes coming up in my own psyche and as I see them around the world. So death has been big theme, and I noticed that I've been tending to wear a little bit more black this week than usual, and I've been rocking this black tourmaline to match, so I'm definitely subconsciously choosing my outfits accordingly. So what's interesting is that this full moon, it is on April 29th. It's a Sunday, and Eastern Standard Time, it happens just before 9 o'clock p.m., so we should be able to see it if it's not too cloudy. And what's interesting about the Scorpio full moon is this is a big one. Everyone always feels a Scorpio full moon. People tend to act a little bit more intensely. Scorpio actually kicks up our emotions, and we might get obsessed with something, we might get fixated on something, we might feel something so deeply it's hard to let it go. It can also be a deeply intimate, sensual full moon if you are set up for success in that way. But if you have a lot going on behind the scenes in your own mind and in deep down in your spirit, it can not be as pleasant. So the lucky thing is that this full moon is actually a little bit farther away from the Earth. I think in recent years it's been a little bit closer to Earth, so we felt it a little bit more intensely, but that does not minimize how we're going to be experiencing this full moon. Scorpio is ruled by Mars, and Mars is just right now creeping up on a conjunction with Pluto, which again is pretty stationary right now. So we have these two guys joining up, which is very, very intense, and it brings up kind of this primal energy within all of us, and we can all experience it in a very different way. Some could experience it as anger, some people as passion, some people just, who knows, some people go nuts. I mean, this has been a week where we've seen people run pedestrians over in traffic. We've seen another shooting this week. This is a time where people lose it if they don't have the proper outlets. So if you have friends who are going through a lot right now, make sure you reach out to them. The other thing about the Scorpio full moon is that the moon is in its fall in Scorpio. It's a hard place to be because people feel so intensely, and they aren't even often aware of how to articulate themselves. So a lot of times Scorpio people hold it in, and that's why they have that reputation for being difficult is actually because we don't always know what they're actually feeling. We see the anger, we see the passion, we see the intensity, but we don't always know where it's coming from. And part of that is because the Scorpio energy has a lot to do with secrets. So the best thing that we can do to manage this is if you find yourself feeling really intensely and you're acting out around someone that you really, really care about, best thing to handle this energy is to actually take a pause and figure out, why am I mad and what am I feeling exactly, and try to communicate this to your partner or whoever it is that is receiving on the receiving end, to try to communicate what exactly it is that you're feeling. The other amazing thing with this full moon is that it's squaring the nodes of destiny, which means that we have a big choices around our purpose and our direction. A lot of this energy can relate to what you started back in November of 2016. So if you started anything around that time that had to do with your transformation or healing, or maybe you started going to therapy, or maybe you joined a yoga studio, think back to the progress that you've made since then. And again, choices. It's going to be different as far as what kind of choices for different people, depending on where this is falling in your chart. But it's going to have a lot to do with passion and healing and what serves your highest good. Ceres is on the North Node, which has to do with choosing the most nurturing path. So whatever the choice is for you, choose what is going to best serve you in a nourishing way. Don't make choices out of spite, out of anger, out of a reaction, out of wanting to get revenge, because again, it's Scorpio. We can get that scorpion tail out and sting sometimes. Sometimes we don't always mean to, speaking from experience, but you want to choose the thing that is going to serve your highest good. So one last little thought about what's going on right now and how this relates to the full moon. So Chiron just entered Aries, and this is a really big deal. When you have a slower moving celestial body enter a new sign, it's always a big deal, but especially Aries. The Aries point is extremely potent in astrology. And Aries has a lot to do with personal sovereignty and who we are as individuals. And Chiron is the wound. So whatever your story is where you've been hurt by society, by the world, by your parents, by your peers, whatever it is, we're starting a new relationship with our wound. No matter how much healing you've done in the past, Pluto is always going to bring it up. And Chiron in Aries says it's time to create a new story. It's time to create a new relationship. And Chiron can also be a mentor and a healer. So maybe it's time for you to seek deeper healing, or maybe it's an invitation to facilitate healing and mentorship to others. The wounds teach us a lot. I was just having a conversation with one of my friends last night, and we were talking about how Jesus went to Tibet to learn how to handle his anger. And I said, of course he did. Jesus was, of course, a sage, but he went into a temple and started flipping tables. And of course he had good reason to flip tables, but he still went in and flipped some tables. So, and he turned out to be a great teacher. So, using Jesus as an example, we all have a wound. We're not ever born perfect. We're not ever born wise. It's through these painful experiences that jolt us to our core, that provide us with wisdom and strength over time. Chiron is about the journey of healing, because healing is always a journey. When you overcome something, it doesn't mean that it goes away. It doesn't mean that you forget about it, but it means that it no longer hinders you from moving forward and living your best life. So in other words, Chiron entered Aries this week, the same time that Pluto went retrograde. So our shit is really coming up this week. This is an opportunity for us to make choices of how to transmute this energy to best serve ourselves and even maybe others. So go forth, be awesome, communicate with people, hopefully have some awesome breakthroughs. Uranus is about to move into Taurus, which is going to be a new breakthrough for all of us in a different area of life, which hopefully we can get into next time. But good luck and ride this full moon wave. Sat Nam.